Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. This was a very busy weekend. We had a lot of motorsport all over the world to keep track of, and that's not including Goodwood or most of the racing that happened. What we are looking at today includes IndyCar and the IMSA from Long Beach, NASCAR from Bristol, Formula 2 and 3 from Bahrain, the start of Super GT for 2025 at Okayama, and Supercars from Taupo in New Zealand. We already looked at the Bahrain Grand Prix in this video, not the most exciting race ever, but check out my thoughts on the Grand Prix anyway. And with that, make sure you subscribe, and let's jump into the video. We of course start with the third round of IndyCar for 2025 from Long Beach. Can anyone stop Alex Palou this year? Well, it was Kyle Kirkwood on pole, Alex Palou was lurking in fifth. We got some really early stops and some real strong fighting between Scott McLaughlin, Colton Herta and Joseph Newgarden, with others joining in when they came out of the pits. And then we waited and waited. Christian Lundgaard led on the hards for a long time and not a lot happened in this phase of the race. Stingray Rob led for a long while whilst we waited for the strategies to work themselves out. And then nothing happened for what seemed like hours. Kyle Kirkwood took his third IndyCar win, his first since Nashville 2023. Alex Palou second and still the man to beat, and Christian Lundgaard third again. They're the top three in the championship. The only people who will remember this race is Stingray Rob and Kiffin Simpson, 9th and 10th. They got their best IndyCar results yet. Boring race. One of the dullest IndyCar races I've ever watched. Hopefully the next race at Barber will be better. The third round of the IMSA was also taking place at Long Beach. A street circuit always presents a unique challenge for these surprisingly wide cars. And Orey Ferdani was the first off after 20 minutes, parking his Corvette in the wall. He wasn't the only one. Gianmaria Bruni in the JDC Porsche was taken out by an Aston Martin he was lapping, and that brought out a safety car. Bad news for the Porsche Penske cars that were leading the race, but it didn't stop them, and we got another Porsche Penske 1-2, with Felipe Nasra and Nick Tandy winning all three races so far in 2025. Not the most interesting turn of events. NASCAR was at Bristol for the Food City 500. Kyle Larson dominated the first stage, which feels like a return to form for him. He led through stage 2 also, but this was interrupted when Shane Van Gisbergen spun. His dreadful start to his full-time NASCAR career continues. Didn't stop Larson from dominating stage 2, and clearly he had a car capable of winning, which he did with a clean sweep and a massive 411 laps led of 500. Not a very exciting NASCAR race. Surprisingly clean, but it was fun watching Kyle Larson lap everyone up to 9th. Formula 2 was supporting Formula 1 in Bahrain. Leo Fornaroli got the pole position for the feature race, but first we had the sprint. The usual suspects got taken out on the opening lap. Victor Martins and Sebastian Montoya's luck will just not change. I hear they live together in a ladder factory. Joshua Dirksen led, but was passed by Dino Beganovic. That was the highlight of a very drab race. Max Etterson broke down on lap 16, that brought out another safety car, and some chancers took the opportunity to pit for new tyres. We had 4 laps to the finish once the safety car went in, and this was the most exciting part of the race. The fight for third involved about 6 cars, and Luke Browning got bumped by Alex Dunn, who slid to the back of the field. Gabriel Mini, Oliver Gerfer, and Jack Crawford all made contact, and somehow got away with it. Beganovic and Dirksen had led the entire race, but with 2 laps left, found themselves trying to hold off Pepe Marti and Richard Verschoor. Marti took the lead on the final lap and took the win after starting 11th. The last 4 laps were very exciting, but could the Formula 2 field replicate that in the feature race? Leo Fornaroli led away, but he doesn't win races, so we knew that wasn't going to last, right? Well, Alex Dunn got past him before the pit stops. We had some early stops to mix things up. By the halfway point, it was Victor Martins challenging Alex Dunn for the lead. There were a few overtakes as cars started to struggle on their tyres, including Martins. Alex Dunn took his first Formula 2 win well clear of Luke Browning, Leo Fornaroli and Pepe Marti. Pretty boring race, tyre heavy. Leonardo Fornaroli is leading the championship. Surely he can't take another title without winning a race. Can he? Formula 2 will be back in action again this weekend in Saudi Arabia. Formula 3 was also in Bahrain, and Freddie Slater was making his debut, replacing Nikita Bedrin in just the second round of the year. Slater has a rocket strapped to his back, and it was going to be interesting seeing what he could do on his first Formula 3 start. He started with an audacious move around the outside into second, and soon led his debut race. Ugo Chukwu retired on lap 4, as his and Prama's awful start to the season continues on. Nicholas Solov got past Freddie Slater to take the lead at the halfway point. Joshua Dufek had led at the start, but he slid down the field and collided with Ivan Dominguez to bring out a late safety car. We got a 2-lap sprint to the line. Slater could not get past Nicholas Solov, who took his 4th Formula 3 win. But second place for Freddie Slater on debut was a hell of a performance. Callum Voisin took the lead on the feature race at the start. Our first incident of the race was between James Wharton and Ivan Dominguez, but both kept going, albeit with damage and with no real chance of points. Sadly, Freddie Slater retired on lap 3, but he has definitely left his mark on Formula 3. Rafael Kamara got past Callum Voisin, but it was a tough fight at the front with the pair joined by Charlie Wirtz and Tuukka Tarppanen. The best battles in this race were in the midfield, with the Premers again out of the points and getting feisty with each other. In the last few laps, Tarppanen was caught by Tramnitz, and Wirtz dropped a couple of places. Tyres played a big part in this race as well. Another dominant win for Rafael Kamara, who is carrying on from last year's Formula Regional Europe Championship. Better performances from others like Tarppanen and Wirtz, who sadly dropped out of the points. The big story is Prema really struggling. 4 races into the season and they have 2 points. The worst start to a Formula 3 season for Prema, and you just got to wonder what's going on there. We will see Formula 3 next up at Imola in around a month's time. Rounding up a last couple of series from around the world, Super GT got underway for 2025 at Okayama, 300km race and a very wet one at that. That sadly meant we had a safety car start to the season. The race got started on lap 5 and straight away we had a big crash with several cars colliding with each other and damage to the barrier, and the race stopped. When it got restarted it was drier, but there was still the odd spinner and a safety car. When the D-Station Aston Martin got turned around we got a full course yellow, and it was clear at this point that the flow of this race was never going to get going. Well, it did with the odd bump, but the middle of the race was slightly drier and less stop-starty. The race was led by last year's champions and they had little trouble throughout this race. They were tested with a late safety car after Senna Sakaguchi went off and got stuck with very hot brakes. There were just 10 laps to the finish and no one could stop Sho Suboi and Kenta Yamashita from winning. This was an entertaining if messy race. Not much looks to have changed in GT500, but we saw a great performance from the Anest Iwata Racing Lexus in GT300, finishing second, by far their best ever result. Next up is the 3 hours of Fuji race in around a month's time. 3 Repco Supercars races from Taupo, New Zealand. Matt Payne started race 1 on pole with former champion Brody Kostecki alongside. Chaz Mostert hasn't had the best start to the season, and that continued as he got tagged by Thomas Randall into a half spin. Brock Feeney and Will Brown were in the middle of the pack, having a hell of a battle with Thomas Randall. Everyone dived into the pits when Macaulay Jones broke down and brought out a safety car. The pits were so busy, someone knocked a wheel into the fast lane, a mild inconvenience to say the least. Thomas Randall's hard work was undone when he was spun round by Brody Kostecki. Cooper Murray was the next car off after contact with James Courtney, not the first time he's been off this season. Matt Payne won an entertaining enough race, his 3rd Supercars win, and this one in his home country. Chaz Mostert led the way in race 2, Cooper Murray got another bang this time from David Reynolds. Up the front, Brody Kostecki and Chaz Mostert went to war to the win, and both took a few bumps. Mostert eventually pulled away and took his first win of 2025. Brody got hung out to dry at the start of race 3, and the lead went from him to Cameron Hill to eventually Matt Payne. This was the longest and least interesting of the races, with a few bangs and battles that stopped it dragging too much. Matt Payne took his 2nd win of the weekend. Matt Payne moved into 3rd in the championship behind Will Brown and Cam Waters, ahead of Brock Feeney. All 3 only had mediocre weekends. 6 different winners in 9 Supercars races. Next up is Simmons Plain in about a month's time. So that was all the action from the past weekend. A lot of racing was very disappointing. Bahrain, I was kind of expecting the dullness, but IndyCar was a massive letdown this weekend and everything else was just okay. My race of the weekend is kind of a tough pick, but I have to go with Super GT at Okayama for the sole reason that stuff happened. This coming weekend we have yet another Formula 1 Grand Prix, and Formula 2 and Formula 1 Academy are also in attendance at Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. We also have Super Formula at Motegi, World Endurance for the 6 hours of Imola, and nothing else, not even NASCAR. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave your thoughts in the comments below, let me know your race of the weekend. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.